Hello, my name is Amina and here is my fifth heading, create a salt package. I've started by creating my own header file where I have defined the header files and written my declarations of the 5 sorting: bubble sort, selection sort, insertion sort, quick sort, and binary tree sort. Then created an integer that consists of an array that has 10 numbers, and what these sorts will do is that it will sort the number from 0 to 9, and then there's the indif. And I've created this header file by my own by saying file new empty file. Then I've also created a CPP file the same way as I did with the header. Here I just include the header file.h, which is the name of the header file, and included rstring. Then I go down to the main where I created the code for all my sorts. It started out by bubble sort, where it has a for loop and a cout. And what the bubble sort does is that it has 2 for loops. It runs through them and checks if how far one of them are. And the second one checks which number is biggest, and this if statement asks which value is the biggest and if it stands in the row before the one that is biggest. And then we put the numbers into temp is equal to one of the values and switch them. So here we put the one value over over 1 in temp, and thereafter replace it with the value which is bigger, and then they will swap. Then there's the selection sort, which again has 2 values, a if conditions and a int mean equals I and a mean equals 3. And what this selection sort does is that it finds the lowest value of them all and puts it in the first row and starts over. And again I have created this void selection sort function. Then there is the insertion sort, where I again started out by writing void. Then it goes through an array and goes through for loop again that goes through array from I plus 1 and continues thereafter further down until t equals 0, where the for loop will stop and the I in the first for loop will be plus with 1, and thereafter the for loop will start over. So in this if conditions, the for loop checks if rt is less than rt minus 1, and if it is, it should swap the integers in the array with use of the temporary integer. Then there's the void quicksort, where I start by writing void quicksort integer array, integer lower and integer upper, which is actually some variables I'm going to use, which are being created in these 3 lines. Actually, the lower and upper you see here is right and left, and this TMP is temporary. And then there's the pivot calculation that takes the array lower plus upper and divided with 2. Then there are some 3 while loops, which checks if lower is less than t, it should run the 3 while loops. And in this while loop, it takes the array, takes the smallest array that is less than the pivot and plus it with 1, as you can see here. And the same goes on in the next, where it just minus with 1. And then there's this if statement that takes the lowest value and say if I is less than equal t, it should run all the time. I plus plus gives to 1, and 10 minus, t minus minus subtracts from 10, and then there's this recursions that says if lower is less than t, it should run the quicksort that uses r that uses array, lower, and t. And then again there's if statements that will run with r, I, and upper. Then I just have a cout for loop here and a return 0. And in my main I have again included iStream header file using namespace standard int main cout for int I equals 0, I less than 10, and I plus plus, and then cout it. And what I just do in the main is I just call the function I want to call, for example bubble sort. Then it will run through this loop here, int I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, and it will cout the numbers in the array. And the same goes on here, and then there's just a return 0 and a bracket that closes it, and that's it.